Hello, youth developer. Welcome to the show. Happy Friday. Today it's another show with 30 minutes with an action taker. So we have Diane in our show. Diane, tell us what you're going to be sharing with us. Tell us a little bit about your background and your story. Welcome to the show, Diane.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Patty. It's such a blast to be here. I love your channel. So as you said, my name is Diane, and I'm here to talk about my story. I am a newly graduated nutritional therapy consultant. Woo, woo!
Yes.
Just like you. Yes, high five, virtual high five. Who came onto this journey of nutrition based on my diagnosis of multiple sclerosis 3 years ago, and how I went from lying on this very couch where I am as a vegetable, not being able to move or breathe, and actually blind in this eye, to where I am now, speaking, talking, eating, walking, working. I went to school and graduated. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I know that we're going to dig in a little bit more in your story, but at the bottom, I guess, overall, how did it lead into you not being basically able to function, right? Like to do your regular day-to-day activities. Where did it stem from? What was at the heart of everything?
Man, I have to tell you, multiple sclerosis came at me and hit me like a truck. So if I really think about it, see, when I was 18 years old, I started to notice, I worked in retail, I worked at the mall while I was going to college, and I started noticing that my hands, like things were hurting and I couldn't grab, and my knees were hurting, nothing major. Went to the doctor, they said it's juvenile arthritis. A year later passed and it started getting worse. I started dropping things, so by now I was 19. Go see a rheumatologist. So I went to see a rheumatologist who, the day I went to see him, said, did an MRI, a CAT scan, and said, blood work, you have rheumatoid arthritis. I'm going to put you on an infusion. It was Remicade. And he gave me steroid shots on each one of my major joints that same day.
Wow.
It was horrific. I don't think I'd ever put my body through anything like that, so you can imagine the side effects. But I kept getting worse and worse and worse, and every 6 weeks I was going in for the infusions. I stopped that after about a year and a half, because I just, it was one of those where it was like, this isn't helping me.
Yeah.
I was working, and I started noticing, I was working at a bank, and I was noticing that I could no longer do math. It was getting hard. I was like, wait, I was losing all this focus, and it prompted me to go to my doctor again, and I was having a lot of stomach issues. It was nothing. It was stress. It was, you know how it is, right? You go to the doctor, they try so hard to label something.
Yeah.
And my doctor actually says, I'm not going to look at the brain. You're just so young. Let's go all these other avenues. So I started to get worse and worse and worse until I ended up in the emergency room. And then they sent me off to get an MRI of the brain. And that's when.
Finally, right?
Yeah. But literally it took, I was 18, and then I was diagnosed when I was 26 and a half. So you figure that's 8 years of just.
Wow.
Yeah.
8 years. Wow.
Yeah. So if I think of back where it stems from, multiple sclerosis is an autoimmune disease. And I grew up in extreme trauma. I was in an orphanage and I was in foster homes. So I was always in a very, very stressful environment since when I was a little kid. So I think even from then, things started to break down. Yeah.
No, and so I know so many people could relate to the struggle of not knowing why things are happening to us, why our health has turned and gone down the hill. We've been at the doctors, at the hospitals, the endless visits, and it's, I don't know. And like you said, trying to put a label to your symptoms, but try to put a label on you, really, on us, and finally being able to for them to do the one thing that you asked, I want an MRI. You know, we need to get to the root of the problem.
Yeah.
But thanks so much for sharing that. And so what led you to where you are now?
Okay.
NPC.
Yeah, woo woo. I should have had her book. I'm looking at it right now. But when I was at my worst, we came back one day from the emergency room, and like I said, I was on this couch. This is where I was all the time. And my husband laid me down on the couch, and he had ordered Dr. Terry Wall's book. So the Walls Protocol. And for those that don't know, Dr. Terry Walls was able to beat progressive MS through a Paleolithic nutritional approach. And she's a doctor herself. And so he read the book. I have the picture that I took. He was sitting on the chair right across from my sofa, and he just started reading the book. And that's where it started. It was such a journey. It was so difficult because financially, you don't even want to know, right? I mean, when you're on, you know, the medications for MS were so expensive. I was on about a dozen different medications. Even after health insurance, it was costing me like $450 a month, right? And by then I was no longer working. We were now just one income. So it was pretty tough, but we started implementing. The first thing that we did was we cut gluten. Yeah, that was the first thing, because my husband was cooking and therefore feeding me. So he cut gluten, and then little by little he started cutting sugar. And we started taking baby steps that we could financially handle, but also that he could handle. You know, he works 10 hours a day and was taking care of me. So that's where it started. And the second part of it was just, I was at my last wits, but I took the little bit of energy and the little bit, like, I had lost almost all faith by then, and I took the little bit of faith that I had and the little bit of determination up in here, and I just planted that seed. And you took that seed plus the little bit of changes that we were making, and you know, you'd be surprised. Sometimes I wouldn't feel like my finger was going to be zapped off with electricity. It would be like, finger, right? Like, you know, I would be on my phone and I would either use my finger, because that was the only finger that I could use, my pinky. And you know, I could feel the other finger. And then, you know, little by little I started getting better, and then I was using a wheelchair, a walker, a cane. I went back to work, and I said, you know what, there's other people like me. And I studied nutrition.
That is such an amazing story, Diane. I couldn't wait to have you on the show to really share that, to share your story. And there's so much that we could take from here, but for this particular playlist, this is about those action steps. And I love how you started like with a little tiny, you know, like most people eat even as tiny as a mustard seed, right? You'll be able to move mountains. So can you share with our community, what were some of those action steps? How did it make it manageable on a budget? And what is it that you want to share? Because I know that you're going to open your YouTube channel. Right? It's gonna, and I know that the goal is 2 languages, because your heart is in sharing this message with our people, right?
Yeah.
Latinos.
Woo, woo.
Yes, and you are very, very passionate about sharing this message, yes, with everyone, but I know that your heart is in our people. And so I am so excited to have you. You know, actually, in the action step, you're our first Latina. Yeah. We'll have that. All right. So Dan, so what is your advice for our people? What are some of those action steps that we could take?
First of all, it's believing that you can do it, right? Because it's not easy, at least in my community. wow, you know, being Spanish and, you know, you're living in a boxed world, right? When you go to the grocery store and the kids come home and, you know, from school and they've had box this, box that. And although boxed foods is cheap, it still might not be as cheap as they need, because you go through it like crazy, right?
Yep.
Processed food is so addicting.
Yep. You get hungry all the time.
Yes. I mean, you could go broke on Cheetos. So it's one, believing that you can do this, right? And it's okay if you just start with yourself, because, you know, in our culture, oh, we got some stubborn people, right? So it's okay. You just start with yourself, and once you have it, it's okay. I can do this. I'm going to do this. What do I do next? Then you look for help. And I think that's the biggest thing with our culture is we don't ask for help, right? I think we have this stigma where it's we do it all, especially as women, right? The ones that are moms, they do it all. They clean the house, they go to work, they cook. It's just in our nature. I mean, make the tortillas as you're carrying the child, right? So it's to ask for help. And once you have that help, you know, and you've let that wall go, you're gonna go amazing places. I mean, even if it's swapping out, I don't know, one of your agua fresca for, you know, just regular water with like some lemon would be huge. Or, you know, we eat tons of sugar in our culture. You know, I don't know where you're from exactly, but my husband is Peru. Okay. So my husband is from Mexico. I am, you know, I come from Colombia. You know, my mother was Colombian, and, you know, sugar is like crazy with us, and our people are dropping like flies, you know. And sadly, when they go on TV, they hear all of this information that may not be correct, right?
Yes.
You know, they're constantly being told, stop eating those fats, stop eating this, eat that, you know, lean chicken breast, and you know, have oatmeal for breakfast. And they believe that because I think there's so much innocence around being an immigrant. Innocence.
Okay.
In being an immigrant in a new country, you believe everything.
Yeah.
Right. So it's asking for help. So having, you know, a YouTube channel like yours, and we got to get you to get yours in Spanish, mama. Yes.
So you can talk to your Colombian people, Cuba, pues.
Yeah, exactly.
All my people.
Yes. And it's just being able to do that. Everything's okay. You know, they do say the cliche is Rome wasn't built in a day, you know, but it's the truth. I didn't get off of this couch, you know, just like that. It took baby steps. It took action steps.
Right. Talk more about the baby steps, because a lot of people think that action takers are like this superwoman, super people. Can you talk a little bit more about what does baby steps look like, feel like, smell like, everything?
Yeah, so action steps is definitely doesn't mean that you have to rule the world in a day, you know. Action steps could even make the decision between you getting up in the morning and deciding not to stay in your pajamas for later than you have to, and actually putting on, you know, and looking nice. In terms of your health, action steps in a baby step could just be something so simple as, you know, drinking that glass of water that you didn't drink before. Because I mean, water is so huge. Trying to get people to drink water is incredible. So that's one giant baby step. You know, and I don't know about it in your culture, but in mine, after dinner, what's the thing? You have coffee and a piece of sweetbread, café con pan, right? And maybe it's
I gotta say your Colombian bread with the cheese inside.
Oh,
wow.
I know.
I missed that. Out of everything I cut off, that was like one of those things I was like, I can have my pan con queso from my Colombian bakery.
Yes, I have to give you a recipe because I came up with a completely paleo one.
We
Fantastic.
are gonna put it on the show notes. I'm writing everything down here. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, pan con queso. Yeah.
so good. Yeah, so even maybe switching up that bun with your coffee could be huge for your health. It's not necessarily that you have to say no to your fats. It's the healthier fats. We're actually really smart people, you know?
Mhm.
It's just sadly they live in an American English world, so
Yeah.
they get confused. But,
Yeah.
action steps, baby steps, just you need to realize and understand how powerful you are, how much strength you have. It's very easy to feel overwhelmed. And yeah, no, I mean, girl, our culture's already cooking all the time. So, instead of, I don't know, frying that chuleta in, vegetable oil, just do it in like coconut oil instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a sample of a baby step. All it really took is for you to substitute one oil with a real oil, right? Coconut oil.
Hmm.
So, and it literally was one ingredient in the thing that you love.
Yeah.
So, we all love pan con queso. So, you're gonna give us a recipe
Yes.
what to substitute for that. That's awesome. Okay. All right. So just a recap of what you've been sharing so far. I know you first started talking about having that little small faith as a mustard seed,
Mhm.
right? To really, secondly, asking for help because
Mhm.
that is something that as a culture we don't do, you know?
Mhm.
And so instead of looking, like you said, I think you call it like that innocence that we have when we get to this country, we lean into the news for help, even though, I mean, we think, and I'm very passionate about this too because it breaks my heart because we could learn a lot of information and be informed, but our family is gonna really have faith on the TV news,
Mhm.
Noticias 41 and 47,
Yes.
versus what the books and science are really sharing. So if they're gonna go between science and noticias, they gotta go for noticias, and it's so
Yes.
it gets me upset,
Yeah.
that we're overlooking science. So I think that when you mention the whole get help, and then we're also like very influenced by the media, I think let's get help from the root. Let's get down to science. Let's make science easy and simple.
Yes. Yes. I completely agree with you. It's like the our books don't come dressed in pretty dresses, just like they do on TV. Which is why I think it's so important the work that, we all do in getting the word out. It's there's one thing that our people like is cheeseman. They like to spread the word. So if you
Yeah.
help one person, it's going to be quite impactful. And I've already seen it in friends and family. It doesn't matter. They might not be able to read the same books that we read, because of their life, and they're just so busy carrying around the weight of the world. But one little piece of advice can really save a life.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for sharing that. And then you talked about those baby steps, right?
Mhm.
That could come down to a decision. Just a decision to take off the PJs and get off wherever you're doing into something else. Like it's replacing a bad habit with a new habit, with a brand new spanking good habit.
Mhm.
So that's awesome. And then you lastly were talking about understanding like your own, I guess, your own strength, knowing that you're powerful.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that? Can you tell us a little bit more about that and why that has helped you?
Yeah. So, it's so easy in this day and age to, especially with social media, to feel like you're never good enough, and especially if you add this like preconceived notion that we have in our head, whether I don't have the money, I'm too busy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, stop lying to yourself, because that's what you're doing. It's one of those things where I have to be very real with my clients and with my people. Is, let's be honest with ourselves. Okay, you are, first of all, you know, if I have a client that's a mom, amazing. Do you know how incredible of a warrior you are, right? Especially because there's some of us who can't or don't have kids, or, you know, you cleaned your house and you cooked and you did this. I mean, that's huge. Do you realize how incredible you are?
Yeah.
And it's, I think once they tap into that inner strength and they actually learn to value themselves, right? Because people tend to undervalue themselves.
Mhm.
And they tap into that, it's pretty quite incredible. It's this whole thing where, you know, I said, like I told you, I took my little bit of faith and the little last remnants of the neurotransmitter that wasn't like dying on me, and that's what got me to, I mean, I who would have thought I sitting here
Yeah.
would 3 years later graduate as a nutritional therapist,
Yes.
right? I
Yes.
mean, it took a while for that mustard seed to grow, but it did it.
Yeah, and it's like that persistence, you know, and really taking, and was like nutrition or science your background? Like,
No, not at all. I was a social worker. That was my first. So people are my thing.
yeah.
And then I did study a little bit of pre-law. So, you know, but no, not nutrition at all.
Yes, right. And which one of the, I know you told me about the social work aspect, and I was like, yep, you love people, you want to help people, you want to make an
Mhm.
impact, and then you decided to take care of yourself first, and to
Mhm.
really be able to help from a full cup versus from an empty cup.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
here we are today.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we have faith, ask for help. We have those baby steps. We have small as like substituting or just making decisions.
Mhm.
And then we have the fact that you have to know that you're powerful. You know,
Mhm.
you're, especially when you mentioned about your moms, and I see like most of your clients are moms. So
Mhm.
really, that also takes a lot of humility to come to you, right? Or to us, to really get informed, right?
Yeah.
Get the right education. Let's get back to basics, back to science,
Yeah.
and know who we really are. Like, and I think you mentioned, you know, valuing yourself. You
Mhm.
know, and I know that always has been a struggle for me, wanting to change the world, and then leaving myself last. So, anything else you like to share with our community, or anything else you want to add?
No, I'm just so honored to be here with you. You are such an inspiration, you know, what you do and your channel, and, you know, certain things that you may have planning. It's just fantastic. You know, I know for myself as a newly graduated nutritional therapist is, you know, it's just getting the ball going, but everything that I just spoke to you, I literally spoke, and I now have to digest it myself, because now that I've graduated, I have to take baby steps, right? So now I have another mustard seed that I have to you know, join with faith and replant. No, it's fantastic. I think what we do, no, take that back. I know what we do is so important.
Yes.
um, and, you know, we don't live very far from each other, but the impact that we're both making in our communities is quite incredible.
Yes. Can you give a shout out to your town? Where are you, Diane?
I'm in Summers Point, New Jersey.
Ooh, Jersey girl.
Yeah. I'm from California, but okay, I'll take Jersey. Hi, New Jersey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Where in California are you from?
I'm from Los Angeles.
Okay, that's a big city. So you came from a big
Yeah.
city down to the shore of Jersey.
Mhm.
Got it.
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. All right. So, all right. Well, Diane, thank you. Thank you so much for spending your time with us, sharing your story, and tell us about the baby steps that you took in order to go really from disease and pain to the path of optimum health and helping others. And that's
Yeah.
what you do. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my